To want is, and this is where our weekend starts. It starts many times already. This is the only moment where our weekend really starts. It was all a warm-up. When we understand that our real basic difficulty in self-expression, the real damage where it all begins to collapse in us, is that we don't feel that we're allowed to want. We don't dare to want. Wanting seems problematic for two reasons. One, it's not considered moral. It's very funny because everybody wants, and everybody wants many things. Actually, wanting, which got a horrible reputation in the spiritual world, and not for a good reason. Wanting, being willful, not aggressive, okay? Because immediately the mind says, oh, no, don't say that. I don't want to be aggressive. But to be willful is not to be aggressive, it's something else. It's actually, it means to have your driving life force in a healthy state. That's what it means to be willful. It's obvious that if I tell you, you don't need anything and you shouldn't want anything, you just, it's enough just to sit and breathe. Right? And to eat, to survive, and to breathe. Then, very quickly, there is a flame in us, a flame of the life force in us that begins to feel agitated. It feels restless. There is something that says, well, yeah, okay, so I breathe, nice. So I eat, nice. But now I feel like experiencing, I feel like exploring, I feel like moving on, I feel like overcoming certain situations, and so on and so on. Slowly but surely we feel that we want to expand our experience, to grow and to outgrow. We don't want just to be where we are. But this is not a need, this is a will. It's the will in us that wants to grow. Even being here for this weekend, it's the will that brings you here. It's not just random thought that you just happen to find yourself sitting on this chair. There is a certain will, because you don't have to go through this process, obviously. This is not a need. You don't need to be in this weekend. You want to be in this weekend. And when we say, oh no, I don't want, I just let things flow. So I don't know, I just saw the advertisement and something responded in me and I found myself on this chair. That's all very nice, but let's be very simple, you wanted to be here. Will is the life force in us. It is a sign of health, and it indicates that we're attracted to certain things that seem to us like a possibility for self-expansion. That's will, and there's nothing wrong with that. And still, and how many talks I'm wasting on this topic, and nobody believes me. Still, while we are the continuation of the Big Bang, And the universe seems like the most willful being, entity in the universe. That's a joke. All this explosion of energy and matter, all this drive to consolidate forms and to constantly take form, get rid of form and take another form, and so much energy is involved. And you have this energy inside you. You have this. We call it, eventually it takes the form of will, okay? It's I want, because we are conscious beings. We have self-consciousness, so it translates. It's not like the universe. It becomes I want. And still, it's considered immoral. Although it's not only natural, but it's a sign of psychological health and energetic health. It means that we're alive and kicking. Still, it is considered not okay to say that I want, or if I want, I need to want very little for myself, just the minimum, but never too much. Because only bad guys want explicitly and a lot. Good guys want little and perhaps ideally even nothing, which is spirituality. Like, I want nothing, really? So why do you wake up? Why do you do anything if you want nothing, really? If somebody wants to want nothing, you need to go to somewhere there was, for example, a saint called Ramana Maharshi. He was pretty close to wanting nothing. He still wanted something, but because he did create an ashram. But he was very close to it. He was wearing a piece of cloth, just not to scare people, and sat for 20 years eaten up by worms, okay? Really. His body was eaten up and he wasn't moving. That's really close to not wanting something. If you want to do that, do that. But, of course, Ramana wanted to meditate and to be absorbed in God. So that was his attraction. So even when you don't want, it's because you want to want something deeper than, I don't know, material possessions or earthly attachments and all that. So why am I saying that? I'm saying that because I'm encouraging you to feel the will inside you. To recognize it as a sign of healthy psyche and healthy energy system, not to be afraid and not to think that it is immoral. There is so much shame about this one point. We're so ashamed to admit that we have transformed it into needs. Do you understand? Because it's easier, it sounds much more gentle and kind and also fragile. It's like, I need your love. You see? I need it. It's not that I want it. But it's just, I'm lacking it. And it's a severe, I might be in a severe state, dangerous state, if I don't receive it. But I don't need your love. I want your love. which means I want to experience expansion. I want to experience a growth of recognition and acceptance, and to be included in your world, and so on and so on. So I want your love. I don't need your love. And to begin to change that, to translate our needs into wants, is one very important stage. Because it means, first of all, beginning to take responsibility, saying, yes, I'm actually a very willful being, and soon I will prove it. In a way that is very hard to deny, but is very transformative to admit. So, to begin to admit, yes, I'm actually a very willful being, and that's not a problem. It's like the universe made me so, and that's the very energy of life force in me. When it has a direction, when it takes a direction, that's one important step for treating these two blocked chakras. Now, if you feel uncomfortable already, that goes to show how moral we are, for absolutely no good reason. We think this is not good, and we think that it is good, the opposite. And this is how we're making of ourselves actually very vulnerable and fragile beings that we only can need. That's our maximal limit, and let go of our wills. That's it. To then speak of self-expression doesn't work very well, you see? It just doesn't work, because you cannot express without will, without a sense of willpower also. And that's why, as I told you in the previous weekend, when I meet people for sessions, one of the most consistent blockages they have is the connection between the third and the fifth. Why? Because it's always about expression. But then if you don't have a restored sense of power inside the third chakra, nothing really comes out well. But this is only a first small step. You see, I said we have two reasons for our let's say, avoidance of will. One is that we feel that it's immoral. Everyone wants, and everyone needs to hide away their will. That's the being polite and social and cultural. It's like you don't really want, and it's always very funny to participate in talks when both want something, but they need to hide it, and then it becomes, slight manipulations that sensitive people immediately notice, also in themselves. So the second thing is that we're hurt. We're hurt because we had experiences in life in which we wanted, and our wills were thwarted. They were defeated. They were unfulfilled. And then we began to adjust in a certain process. Perhaps I will talk about this process tomorrow morning. And these experiences led us to feel that wanting too much can lead to such great disappointments that it's like if you want less, you are disappointed less. Do you understand? It's like it's a sort of basic math, and I'm really bad at math, but this math seems to work somehow in our psychology. It's like, yeah, if I want too much, if I declare that I want, then I might not get it, or I might get really disappointed. So let's reduce our expectations from life and from myself, and then there will be far less disappointment. That doesn't mean that we don't want, it only means that we are afraid to want. You understand? Because we say, yeah, it's like if being willful is that, then I'm afraid of experiencing the disappointment. So it's not the will that is the problem, it's the possible disappointment. Is losing. And then we said, okay, so we said, yeah, we accept, you probably still don't, but we accept that most of what we say that we need is actually things that we want. And we are beginning to dare to look into ourselves and say, hey, we sometimes want something. That is not true. It's worse than that. I said that it's not going to be very Christmassy, but special. So, because here comes the last thing. We say wills, needs, and feelings, right? We say, I need to express my feelings. Not I want to express my feelings, because nobody needs to express their feelings exactly. Unless no. I thought of maybe there is an exception. We don't really need to express our feelings. We want to express our feelings. But then we say, I want to express my feelings. I want to say that I'm hurt, or I'm disappointed, or I'm frustrated, or I'm depressed, or I'm sad because of something. That's a lot about what it means when we say I want to be able to express my feelings, to not be ashamed of them. There is a certain problem about this. And it's something to understand about feelings. And that is that before negative feelings arise in us, there is a different process that we hardly even notice, because we're so immediately and automatically move to the negative emotions. And that is that 99% of the times, and you can also reach 100, but I'm gentle, 99% of the time you wanted something, and before that, the negative emotion is actually the frustration of the unfulfilled will. Which means that if you take any negative emotion that you have, any negative emotion or feeling, and you start asking yourself, okay, so what did I want that led to this emotion? Slowly you will start realizing, first of all, that you actually want many things, and you want pretty much throughout the day. And second, is that you're only moving immediately to the negative emotion because that makes us immediately the victim of the situation, the vulnerable, fragile, and hurt. For example, I want to be recognized. I appear on stage, and then people throw at me rotten tomatoes. Okay, it doesn't happen anymore. Now you have comments on the internet, but then you are disappointed or hurt and you cry. But before that, you wanted to appear on stage and to try to gain attention. You understand? That's one very simple example. And the thing is that the more you go for self-expression, the more you expose yourself to hurt, disappointment, and pain. Do you understand? And that's why many people avoid that, because they say, haha, I will not do that. In this way I will avoid all these things. Do they avoid? To a certain degree. Because we still meet all day long with many negative feelings and emotions. So if you begin to go through each negative emotion that you're having throughout the day, and honestly look what is behind it, what preceded it, what came before it, you will see that you have some expectation, some will, that you were just not willing to have thwarted, to have frustrated. That's the cause of pain, that's the cause of disappointment, the cause of frustration, the cause of depression, and so on and so on. And also the anger, of course, but anger is perhaps the clearest example of frustrated will. But disappointment and sadness and pain and tears, they seem more gentle. They seem easier to feel than to say, yes, I wanted something, I didn't get it, and then now I'm angry, sad, disappointed, and so on. And to say it really clearly and plainly, to take full responsibility, if you manage to do that, you have brought the end of your suffering for this lifetime. I'm now talking seriously. And that's why I said this weekend, and I'm going to elaborate, and we're going to practice. But if you understand only this one thing, this is the end of suffering. The end of suffering is not letting go of all your wills. That's possible. Just not to want anything, because that means that you cannot experience disappointment, and then you cannot, if you live at the minimum, the outcome is minimum. But if you begin to try and experience and experiment with life, you are bringing the calamity of disappointment and frustration, and sometimes even the feeling that you actually you got weakened, you got robbed of your power. And this is the principle. The principle is what I call the green one was not working, right? Let's say. No, this time. Will precedes suffering. That's the principle. It basically says, whenever I feel a hurt, a frustration, a disappointment, depression, fear, anxiety, anger, grudge, anything, whenever I feel that, if I'm honest, and that's the problem of honesty, then I need to ask myself, what was my expectation or will that I just didn't get fulfilled? And that's a major key for human maturation, because if you can understand that, it means that you're always responsible for your negative emotions. Nobody is doing them to you. You are doing it to yourself in this process. And why are you doing it? Tomorrow we'll talk about it in the morning at length, but why are you doing it? Because the easiest and most comfortable position for our brain is to feel a victim. You see? To feel the weak one. But the greatest wake-up call, the greatest awakening that could happen to us in terms of our suffering is to see that we're doing that, and we're actually not victims, we just want things. And wanting things, we have certain images, certain visions of how reality should be. We'll talk about it in the afternoon. And when they are unfulfilled, we are angry or sad, disappointed, wounded, and so on and so on and so on. So it's either an expectation or a will. But what happens is that when we don't get what we want, our brain immediately moves to the suffering and hides it away from us, hides away the fact of our will, and shifts us to the realm of vulnerability, pain, wound. I am the miserable one, and so on and so on. This is a process that we need to understand inside ourselves, because that means that not only that we don't have, most of our needs are actually wills, most of our feelings are actually wills. I will rephrase, all of our feelings are actually wills. That's the beginning of self-responsibility. It means that you stop fooling yourself. You begin to realize, why am I sitting and why am I standing? You begin to realize that there are wills, my wills. Again, of course, some of them, there is a small part of needs that probably all of you here have them fulfilled, otherwise you couldn't be here. People who are deprived of their needs, they don't have time to attend seminars. Do you understand? They are struggling so hard that they cannot afford the luxury of wanting something beyond that. That's it. So that's why I'm saying needs, they are very little, like I would put them. Yeah? And then there are wheels. Yeah? And then there are it was supposed to be a sun, but I'm a really bad painter. And then there is reality. The reality of life, how things end up happening, and then they clash. They clash very often during the day, and what we call feelings is here. The clash between our wills and the reality of our life. But our brain chooses to always focus on that, because first of all, as we said, it's much easier to say, I need your love, and it's much easier to say, I feel hurt, or to feel, I feel hurt that I didn't get your love, because I needed that. That's the easiest thing. And that's the greatest form of what we can call victim consciousness, or victim mentality. And we all do that. We all do that until we stop doing that. Okay? Until we begin to have situations, and then we begin to feel the negative emotion, and say, oh, come on, who am I fooling? And you just see, and you immediately transform it. You take responsibility for your will. Then, as soon as you take responsibility, what you do with your will, that's a different matter. We will have a long practice after this talk that will make it very clear how to do it, step by step. But that's the basic issue. If we, and people enter states of deep vulnerability, deep fragility, while the only thing that can wake them up from this state is not trying to resolve their feelings. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because what we do, our brain moves immediately to the feelings, and then we say, oh, I have hurt, I have pain, I need now to, I don't know, to de-traumatize, I need to go to a therapist, I need to heal myself, and to, oh, I'm so gentle, and then we begin to go through processes to de-traumatize, to feel better, to accept ourselves, and so on, while actually what is going on is that we didn't get what we wanted. And then there is no real way, substantial way to heal those feelings. Do you understand? Those feelings are actually fake states of our psyche. They're not real, and because they're not real, you cannot heal them. Now this sounds, I know, a bit scandalous, like a bit outrageous. That it's like, what does it mean? Is it possible at all to be without negative emotions? Yes. If you begin to understand this point, and if you begin to practice it honestly, yes, it is actually possible to be without negative emotions in your life, because they're not real. So it's very easy to get rid of something that is not real. Why are you looking at me like that? Yeah, I'm joking. So, but it requires maturation, because it's easier, and also it's not only easier, we are taught to feel connected, to be connected to our feelings. You know these things, that it seems like more developed, to be connected to my hurt and to my sadness and to my disappointment. It's like not to deny them, to let them be and all that. But for how many years are you planning to do that? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's great to do it for 2-3 years, to say after, you know, sometimes we live in a culture that doesn't allow this. So, and then we feel the liberation of finally crying, finally melting away our stoned self. Because everything got so rigid, but after 2-3 years, it's time to ask ourselves, and I think all of us here are after 2 or 3 years, right? After 2-3 years, it's time to ask ourselves, okay, now am I going to connect to my feelings, my hurt and disappointment and sadness, and be authentic about my feelings for the rest of my life? Or am I going to move to the next stage?